Hey y'all, let's get ready for this canning project by opening the garbanzo beans, also known as chickpeas, and getting them into the bowl. I'm going to weigh them out, but here I'm sorting them to get them ready to rinse. Now you just want to rinse them a few times and pour off the water until it's not so cloudy anymore. I think I did that 2 or 3 times. Once your water runs clear, then just run about 2 inches of water above the chickpeas and let them sit overnight. Hey y'all, welcome to my modern homestead. My name is Janet. If you are new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. Today y'all, I am going to do some roasted red pepper and garlic hummus. You guys, I have been wanting to do garbanzo beans or chickpeas, which is the base of hummus, for so long, and I've just never taken the time to actually get it done. But I've got my beans. I actually soaked those overnight, as you just saw in the intro of the video. So the first thing I need to do is measure out my garbanzo beans to see how many jars it's going to make, because that's going to determine how much sesame seeds I need to measure out and how much or how many cloves of garlic I need to do. Because what we're going to do with those, the garlic, we're going to separate these cloves and then we're going to roast them for 40 to 50 minutes. But not only the garlic, we're also going to do a red pepper. Now I don't have a gas stove, I don't have a flame, anything that's lit, so I am going to put this in the oven with the garlic to roast it, and you can do the same thing. But if you have a flame and you prefer to do it on the gas stove or outside, whatever, you go right ahead. It will be just fine. So let's get started. Okay, you guys, as you saw in the intro, I let these soak, and I put these on to soak last night before I went to bed. And just let them soak. They've been soaking good 13, 14 hours, and that way they're rehydrated and they won't expand in my jars. So I'm going to drain these before I measure them out. There we go. They're all drained. I just set them back in this original bowl, because once we measure them out, we're going to pour them back into the bowl until the garlic and pepper are done. One thing I did not tell you was that this was 1.5 pounds of beans. Just in case you missed that on the intro, I weighed them out before we got started. Now I'm not going to fill these all the way up, because we're going to leave room for our sesame seeds and peppers and garlic. So we're just estimating what we need. And it looks like just a little over a cup is going to be perfect, because when we get all the ingredients filled up, we want it up to this first little rim in the jar or thereabouts. So as you can see, I got out way too many jars, but I wanted to have them out just to see. Bless you. And we're just estimating. So if you don't need that many, that's fine. And you guys, you don't have to use roasted garlic. You don't want to go through that trouble. Just throw garlic cloves in there. Just mash them. One recipe I saw said that this amount of beans should do 4 pints. But as you can see, it's going to do more than that. Alright, we have them all measured out. Now I have 8 pints, but one of them is a little short. So depending on what it looks like when we're done, I may just have 7. And that's okay. That's perfect. So Now, what I'm going to do is measure out 3 cloves of garlic for each jar. So I need 24 cloves of garlic. Okay, I have all of my garlic cloves, and I'm also going to put our bell pepper right there. I'm just going to leave it whole. Now, let's pop this in the 350-degree oven. And while this is going, we're going to get started on our sesame seeds. Y'all, I've never bought so many sesame seeds in my whole life all at one time. But for this recipe, you want 1/4 cup of sesame seeds per jar. So if we have 8 jars, we need 2 cups of sesame seeds. I hope that math is right. Never claimed to be a math genius, but I think we got this. All right. Now, what we're going to do is toast them on the stove for just a few minutes until they turn lightly golden brown. Okay, y'all, please forgive me for this bad angle. I am working on a tripod so y'all can see what I'm doing. But I've already got my pan heating, so I'm just pouring these in. And all we'll do is just stir them around a little bit and watch them. Don't walk away, because this won't take but just a minute. And once they start looking toasty, we'll just put them back in the bowl and wait for the peppers and garlic to be done. While I'm working on this, Jake is getting out the canner for me. Thank you, son. When I get done with these, I'll go ahead and get the water in the canner. Now you'll know these are close to getting done. You'll start smelling them. They'll take on a nutty aroma. So watch them. Don't let them get too hot. I like to keep the seeds nearby that are still in the container. That way I can compare the 2 colors, and because a lot of times it's hard to tell if the color is actually changed if you know you've got a lot on your mind, not paying much attention. So that helps you, just a little tip. Ooh, it happens quick, y'all. So here we go. I'm just going to pour them off in the bowl. It's hard to tell in this light. They're such a pretty color and they smell so good. There we go. There are all of our seeds. Okay, I have also taken out my lemon juice because we're also going to put 1/4 of a cup of lemon juice into each jar. Okay, y'all, let's go ahead and measure out 1/4 cup of sesame seeds into each jar. That'll be one thing already, excuse me, already done once our garlic and peppers are finished. Okay, let's add spices, you guys. Now, to these jars, you can put up to 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I put about 1/4 teaspoon, and then I'm going to add some cumin. I'm putting in 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, thereabout. I'm also going to add about 1/8 teaspoon of paprika. Now the cumin and paprika, I don't know for sure, but I don't think they're in traditional hummuses that we are typically familiar with. But I like these flavors, y'all, so it can't be too wrong, can it? Okay, the timer just went off on the peppers and garlic. Let's get those out. There we go. Now for this pepper, we're going to wrap it in some foil. You'll see that? And we're going to let it sweat for a few minutes. Let me put this pan down. Okay. We're just going to wrap it loosely in some foil. And then we're going to pop it into a plastic bag. This is just a Ziploc bag. And we'll leave it for about 10 minutes, and then that skin should pull right off. Okay, now I've never roasted garlic before, but I took the skin off of this one, and I'm just going to cut the end off, and we'll squish the garlic out. And I'm going to squish 3 cloves into each jar. Or I'm just going to peel it and scrape it into each jar. You know, whatever works. That took a minute, y'all, but I got all the garlic into the jars. Now we're going to fill the jars right up to about 1-inch headspace. I'm going to leave just a little bit of room for the bell pepper that we have roasted. And I'll bring you right back when we're ready for that. Okay, y'all, so I've got all the beans in the jars, but I'm a little short. So this is not an approved method, but I've canned beans like this for years, and that's what we're doing today. To do this, I'm going to use dry beans in this last jar, but I'm only putting half a cup into that jar. These swell up pretty big, so I don't want to use any more than half of a cup. So I'm going to give these a good rinse, get them in here. I might put just a few in there because, as you can see, it's short on beans too. So let's get these washed up. All right, y'all. Whoops, that's the cup. Where did my half cup measure go? Hold on. Sorry about that. I left the measuring cup in the bag with the beans. Okay, so 1/2 cup into that jar, and just a few more into this jar. I wouldn't even call that quite 1/4 of a cup. Reckon that's enough? We'll eat that one first if not. Alright, now I also have my kettle going. So when we're done with all of our ingredients, we'll put the water in. Now what I'm going to do is to peel the skin off of the pepper and put some of that into each jar. To pull the skin off. Shouldn't take but just a second. It's very quick and easy. And this is how you can roast peppers. This is exactly how you roast them. Okay, it's all peeled. Okay, now it's already starting to split open, but I'm going to remove the stem part. Cut around it, and then I'm going to split it open and get out the seeds. So we don't want those in there. They're kind of bitter. I'm not going to worry over 1 or 2. Okay, now I have 8 jars. So we're going to cut this into, let's see, what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take the biggest one, the biggest 2, and cut some pieces off of those. Alright, so now we have about the same amount for each jar. I'm just going to cut it up into a little bit smaller pieces and put some into each jar. It's about a tablespoon, I would guess. Now we're not going to worry about these being in big chunks, because when this is all canned and we're ready for hummus, we will put this in a mini blender or whatever you have that you want to use to process. So I'll be right back. Now we want 2 tablespoons to 1/4 cup of lemon juice, just whatever you prefer. And we'll add that to each jar. All right, now let's add our water up to 1-inch headspace. Okay, now that we have our water up to 1-inch headspace, let's go around each jar and debubble it. And sometimes when you have loose ingredients, you can have air bubbles get trapped in those ingredients, and it's important to do this step to get those bubbles out. And a lot of times when you do that, you will have to readjust the headspace. You'll have to add a little bit more water. Alrighty, let's wipe off the rims of the jars. It's important to do that because if anything is left on the top rim of this jar where your lid sits, your lid will not seal. This also gives you a chance just to make sure that you don't have any cracks in your jar. Oh, if you've ever had a jar to break, you know how awful that is after you've done all that work. Now, let's put a lid on each jar. Okay. I like to have my jars, my lids turned a certain way. I like for the word on the jar to match up with the word on the front. Totally not necessary, but I just like it. Okay, now we're ready to seal the jars with a ring. And when you do this, you don't want to over tighten, just finger tight. And always keep a towel, or almost always try to keep a towel or a pot holder. See, when the jar starts turning, that's finger tight. Let's finish up the jars and we'll get them in the canner. Why is it important to only do this finger tight? Because if you get this too tight, air can't escape and your lids will buckle on you. And you don't want them to buckle because you won't get a good seal. Alright, here's our last jar. To the canner we go. 1, 2, 3, and yes, that water is warm but not hot. 6. I want to show you this. Now, I started with 3 inches of water in the bottom because that's what the canner says, the instructions say to do. And as you can see, when I put this last jar in, the water is going to come above the jars. That's okay. We didn't intentionally start with the water above the jars, but because of the weight of what's in the jars, the water was displaced. Okay, there we go. Let's get the lid on. Now, I just made a video about how to put the lid on, actually how to do a lot of the canning process. So if you would like to see that, go check out that video. I'll try to put a card up in the corner, one of the corners. It will be your right hand corner. Everything's good to go. I'm going to turn up the heat and let it vent. We'll be back. We're almost finished, y'all. Don't forget, y'all, don't waste the waiting. Look, I just realized that still says Happy New Year. I need to fix that and put up the olive oil. The canner's not even hot enough to vent yet, and I've already got it cleaned up. See, it doesn't have to be horrible. You can do it. See, I know somebody didn't believe me. There's all the stuff we used. It's all clean. There's nothing in the sinks. I'm not going to show you the sinks because we inherited terrible sinks and haven't redone them yet. Okay, y'all, I am just now feeling the steam come out of there. So I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes. Alrighty, y'all, our 10 minutes are up. So now we're going to put the weight on for 10 pounds of pressure. Yes, 10 pounds of pressure, and let it come up to the 10 pounds. Now, if you live in a higher altitude, make sure you adjust. So, let's just wait. Okay, now we're going to set the timer for 1 hour and 15 minutes, or 75 minutes. Oops. Oops. There we go. And just like that, our time is up. So let's not burn ourselves and turn this off. Now we're just going to let this come down to 0 pressure. Remember, don't touch it, don't move it, don't take anything off of it, don't unlock anything. Just leave it be till it's at 0. Okay. We are at 0 pressure. I'm going to take off the weight. And we're going to give it a few minutes, unlock it, and let it vent for just a few more minutes after that. Okay, I just vented the canner, and I will leave it like this for 5 to 10 minutes before we completely open it and take the jars out. Alrighty, let's get the lid off. Ooh. Let's see what we have. Let's get them on the cooling table. Okay, y'all, we have our 8 pints of roasted red pepper and garlic hummus-ready chickpeas. I hope you enjoyed it. And y'all, hummus is a great thing. Now, if you want to do this for Weight Watchers, another way to knock those points down is don't put the sesame seeds in it. But even with sesame seeds, you can have just a couple of tablespoons of this as a side. Use it with some cucumbers, celery, because you know all your fruits and vegetables are free. But anyway, when you're ready to do this, drain your peas, but reserve the liquid. Blend them up however you would like, and then add the liquid back slowly to get the hummus to the consistency that you would like. So, oh, and you can add like an eighth of a an eighth of a cup of oil. There's a list in the background. So you guys, I hope you enjoyed it. You know I love it when you come and spend a few minutes with me. So until we meet again, may you be blessed. Love you guys. Here's the helpful tools to help us do it. Roasted red pepper, garlic, chickpea hummus. Chickpea hummus. No, roasted red garlic.